Welcome, everybody. This is Mike Eilon with Greek University. Welcome to Fraternity Foodie. My name is Mike, as I said, and we're going on episode number 3 already, which is pretty amazing. We're going to continue to tackle some of the really tough conversations in these interviews within fraternity and sorority life and just college in general. And we're also going to get the inside scoop on what our guests like to eat and where we can get it. So stay tuned for that at the end of the interview. So today we have with us John Mabry. John is the Director of Public Outreach for Addiction Campuses, headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. And John and I, we formed a unique partnership with Greek University as well. He's now been speaking on college campuses, and he typically speaks about the real cause of addiction. He also has his own podcast as well called High Sobriety, and now I get to ask the questions, which is a lot of fun because now we get to reverse roles a little bit. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. So welcome, John.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Hey, it's my pleasure. So first, let's talk a little bit about your fraternity background. I know that you were social chairman at Delta Tau Delta at Baylor. What was that like?
Yeah, man, being the social chairman was it was a real honor when they approached me and said, "Hey, man, we think you'd be a really great, social chairman." Didn't know exactly what it was going to entail, but just said, "Yeah, hey, man, I'll do it." And so I was able to dive in and found out that I could create, events, social events, and things with sororities of my choosing, and with activities that I thought would be fun and needed to further our relationships with other organizations on campus and off campus as well. And so it was easy for me. Just given my personality and going into college, my whole thing was social life. That honestly, classes came second, and the social life was really my forte and my main thing. And I gotta say, because I dove into the social life a little too heavy my first semester, my freshman year, I didn't quite make my grades to be able to pledge the first semester I could have pledged, which would have been in the spring of my freshman year, and I missed it by just a few fractions of a point. Because of a low grade I got in a heavy class of Spanish. That was like a 4-point class, and so I just missed being able to pledge, and that was disappointing. But it made me hunker down my second semester freshman year and really kind of switch gears and get my priorities in line so that I could stay an active member, because you got to maintain your grades to be able to stay an active member, and so that was definitely a punch to the gut at first, but ended up being a good thing for me.
Nice. I was also social chairman back in the day for Sigma Pi. And what's interesting is that right after I was social chairman, the very next year I was treasurer. And these two positions couldn't be more opposite in that when you're social chairman, you're like, all right, let's spend the budget. Let's, spend as much money as possible, have the biggest bash, invite the most amount of people. And then next year I go into being treasurer, and my job is to say no to all those people that we have no money on the budget and you can't spend anything and pay your dues. You know what I mean? So it was complete total opposites, but I like the fact that I got both of those experiences. It made me grow as a person and just kind of realize what my talents were and what I needed to do going forward. So that's good. That's always good things.
Nice. So, real quick, I remember one of the events that I set up with one of the sororities was a twister party. That one stands out to be the most. We just had a bunch of twister pads laid out, and so that was really cool to see, 80, 90 people at one time, doing twisters. So that was fun.
I can't even imagine, John. So I know that you were in really what I would consider to be a life-altering car accident just before graduation at Baylor. So talk to us a little bit about what happened that particular day.
Yeah. So, looking at me, and if you saw me online or saw me on the street, you wouldn't, really think of me as a recovering alcoholic and addict. And I'm okay saying that today. I wasn't early on. I did the normal drinking thing in fraternity and not real heavy into the drug scene. But it escalated significantly following a traumatic event. And that happens for a lot of people who go through trauma, whether it's a loss of a major relationship or a job didn't work out or Any family, parents get divorced. These are traumas that people can turn to drugs and alcohol to cope with. And my trauma was, this car accident, man. We were coming back from a spring break trip. Being the social chairman, I set up this spring break cruise for about 45 people, went out of New Orleans, went on this cruise and had a great time. And we're heading back to Waco, Texas, and a tire blew out in a friend's car. Just no drinking or driving. It was just a beautiful day outside, and tire blows out, and we rolled about 10 times across the median, across the other side of the interstate, missing cars coming past us, and into a field on the other side of the interstate. And it flipped my world upside down, literally and figuratively. Somehow my legs got out the window, and I saw my legs getting crushed. I was conscious the whole time and saw my legs getting crushed. And the car comes to a stop, and in the movies, cars blow up when they roll 10 times, don't they? So I'm thinking the car's going to blow up. So I tried to get out of the car as quickly as I could. And I looked down, and my foot had wrapped around. My ankle was just severed in half, and my foot had wrapped around. I could see the bottom of my foot and see bones both in my foot and in my shin, and end up getting out of the car safely. The short of it is we had one fatality. My friend Ashley Furman passed away. They literally landed a helicopter on the side of the interstate. There's fire trucks and ambulances, just seen from a horror movie. And I ended up getting taken out alive and put into multiple hospitals and went through 14 surgeries that year. And so going from social chairman of the fraternity, I was connected. I was engaged in life. I was, there's a sense of belonging that I felt, comfortable in. And then to be removed from all of that and taken, and next thing you know, I'm living in my dad's home office at home. I can't go to the bathroom on my own. I'm going surgery after surgery after surgery, physical therapy, walking in a pool, doing weights. And it was just miserable that year. And I got disconnected from all that meaningful stuff in my life. And I turned to those painkillers, like so many people do. Turn to painkillers as a way to kill physical pain, but also emotional pain. And it escalated from there for years and years into more and more prescription medications, a lot of alcohol, pornography, marijuana, things that I never thought that I would do, that my parents didn't raise me to do these kinds of things, but it was a coping mechanism. And so I've learned, over time that people who are struggling with addiction, they're not necessarily bad people. They're not just making bad decisions. They're actually using that as a tool to relieve some internal discord that they have in their soul. And they need help. A lot of times you need help and need treatment. And that's what we do here at addiction campuses is get people into treatment when they need it to help save their lives.
Wow, that's an incredible story. So you go from being disconnected back to being connected again. You started doing some work, I know, as an actor and as a stuntman on some incredible sets, things like ER and Superbad. What was the most fun experience that you had on a TV or movie set?
Yeah, so as luck would have it, I ended up having my leg amputated. I don't know if we said that, but I ended up having my leg amputated below the knee, so I have a prosthetic leg. And I found after I got up and going again that I could be a stunt person and an actor in LA, playing the wounded soldier and the amputee guy. Sometimes doing some body double work. And so I moved out to Hollywood and got an agent and taken acting classes and tried to get reconnected. The problem is I got connected in some more meaningful work, but I was still disconnected inside. And so although I had some successes, working on the movie Superbad with Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen and those guys, NCIS was a big one. It was definitely fun. The coolest experience I would have to say would be going to the Playboy Mansion, being at the Playboy Mansion following a movie premiere and hanging out and taking shots with Adam Sandler. Bruce Willis and Emma Stone were there. That was fun. Getting to go bowling at Phil Jackson's house. 10-time NBA world champion coach Phil Jackson had been bowling at his house. I got caught in a cab. Weird story. I won't go into all the details, but a weird story. Getting caught in a cab with Andy Dick, and he's like licking me and trying to hit on me, and my wife's in the cab with us. He's trying to hit on both of us, and man, we ended up leaving. He got out of the cab at this stop, and we at this cul-de-sac in the hills. And we're going to like his friend's house, and I'm like, I don't want to be around this guy. So we ended up, I pushed my wife back in the cab and told the cab driver to drive off. And so we're driving off. This is like New Year's night, And Andy's like running after us going, no, don't leave me up here. Because cabs aren't going to come up into the Hollywood Hills and pick somebody up. They're going to stay down where all the people are at the bars and the clubs. So he ended up getting left up there, and that's what you get for trying to lick me, man. So the funnest set that I worked on was NCIS, or I'm sorry, was Superbad for sure. And then one other cool experience was a movie called Sublime. And I was a body double for Tom Cavanaugh, the lead actor in that. And so I got to hang. We were in this huge Hollywood set with this massive green screen hanging up. And we had to simulate falling out of a 7-story window. Like I was jumping out of a 7-story window. And so I guess that green screen, I got lifted up on one of those harnesses, and I got to spin around. And I was covered in blood in this hospital gown. And so that was a pretty unique experience.
Wow. It just seems like you've got these highs and these lows. I mean, the next thing I know that you found your brother dead from an overdose in Beverly Hills. So certainly that must have shaped you as a person who you are today, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, as the host of Addiction Campus's podcast, as you mentioned at the beginning of this interview, it's called High Sobriety. And the whole mission of that is to smash the stigma of addiction and save lives. And what's brought me to that place is the stigma of addiction killed my brother. It wasn't the drugs. The stigma of addiction held me back for so long and for so many years because we didn't want to talk about it. And I think that goes, plays into a lot of the college kids out there. A lot of the people in the Greek system can be struggling with some sort of addiction, and it could be addiction to relationships. It could be addiction to weightlifting or exercise or training for races. It doesn't have to just be drugs and alcohol, but these addictions, there's a stigma around it that keeps people from really reaching out and getting help that they need. And that's exactly what took my brother down, was the stigma. And so not too long after the Playboy Mansion experience that I talked about, I got a call that my brother didn't show up for work one day. And we knew he struggled with addiction, but we didn't talk about it as a family and didn't encourage him to go get help. And he was a very, very smart guy, bright guy, MBA from Georgetown. He was just a brilliant mind, but addiction doesn't care. And so I ended up going to his house and checked his bedroom door, and it was locked. And I picked up the phone. I called his cell phone one last time, and I heard it ringing on the other side of the door, and there was no answer. And so the only thing I knew to do was kick the door in and go find out what's going on. And I did that and walked in on the horrific scene of seeing my brother passed away. And he'd been dead for 3 days. So unfortunately, addiction keeps people disconnected, and it keeps people isolated and alone. And so as many friends as he had around the globe, he had worked in all these different countries and lived in all sides of the United States. By the age of 33, he had friends everywhere, but he was disconnected inside, and that led him to numbing out and to a point where it killed him. And so,
Wow.
So that's, what drives me today is helping people admit that, hey man, maybe I can't do this on my own. And there is a solution, and that's asking for help.
Yeah. I love that you're now working on solutions and trying to help other people. Talk to us a little bit about what Addiction Campuses is and what you do for them as Director of Public Outreach.
Yeah, so I'm here in our headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. We have, we're a little over about 4.5 years old. We have 4 residential treatment facilities in the United States right now that we operate. Yet we refer to people all across the country. So we take between 10 and 15,000 calls a month right here into our call center. So we have a team of treatment specialists taking calls, everything from, we've had somebody call in for, they're suicidal, they have a gun in their hand, and our treatment specialists will call 911, find out their address, call 911, and got 911 to their house to get them safe. And then we have, grandparents calling in concerned about their grandchild. What do I do? What's a good way to approach this? So we do everything from interventions. We can help set up an intervention, and we can get people into maybe they don't need a full 30 or 60-day inpatient treatment program. Maybe they just need an outpatient treatment where they can stay in their job, stay in school, and still get some help in their area. Maybe they just need some 12-step meetings in their area, where they need a trauma counselor in their hometown. We can help them find those resources. So by calling into Addiction Campuses, can I give the number? Is that okay?
Sure, go for it.
All right. So if you need to make a call today, and we'll leave this number now and at the end of the show, is 888-342-8255. 3554. Again, it's Addiction Campuses, 888-342-3554. So yeah, again, we can get people into our treatment centers. They're in Massachusetts, Ohio, Texas, and Mississippi. And I'm a graduate of one of our Dallas area program. And I saw the compassionate level of care was far superior than the other treatment centers I had been to prior to coming to Addiction Campuses. And I wanted to be a part of this organization. As soon as I stepped on campus, I was like, man, the staff members here care more deeply than the other treatment centers. And that's what drew me to want to walk in with a resume after I graduated and say, hey, can I be a part of this? And God's led the way with a willingness for me to be open and vulnerable with my struggles, and has opened the door for me to do a lot of public speaking, share my story in the community to college, universities, high school students. And then going into businesses, I do our drug-free workplace program. And I talk about drugs in the workplace, signs to look for somebody struggling, and resources to turn to. And then, of course, the High Sobriety podcast. And we've had some fun guests. If you're into podcasts, please go to addictioncampuses.com or go to our YouTube channel. We've got all of our podcasts up there, and, of course, iTunes and Stitcher. We've had 3 members of the band Korn. We've had Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night saying Jeremiah was a bullfrog. We've had guitarists from Three Doors Down. We've had Lindsay Lohan's dad. We've had my trauma therapist on there, my 12-step sponsor. So a wide range of folks. Coming out here soon, we're going to have Vidal Sassoon, the hair product guy, his daughter, be interviewing her here soon, Eden Sassoon, about her struggles. Darren Prince is agent to the stars. He was agent to Charlie Sheen, Chevy Chase, Pamela Anderson. We've got that one coming out soon. So definitely tune into High Sobriety.
Awesome. That sounds really good. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that might have some questions about addiction itself. I know when I was growing up, for example, we really didn't have any alcohol, certainly no drugs whatsoever in the household. I didn't really know too many people that were struggling with addiction when I was growing up. It wasn't until I was in college that I really see students and other people really abusing drugs or alcohol. So maybe somebody has a question, what is the root cause of addiction?
Yeah, so you can look at addiction's a huge beast to tackle. And right now, to give you an idea of numbers, we're losing to drug overdoses alone 196 people a day in the United States. And what that equates to is a World Trade Center attack every 15 days. So that's going to be 24 World Trade Center attacks in the U.S. just from drug overdoses this year. And again, I think it's that stigma. We have more and more people struggling with addiction, and I'll tell you what the root cause here is in just a second. And the reason that when they don't deal with it, we're seeing the overdose numbers that we're seeing in record numbers. So there's a theory called it's a rat park experiment. If you Googled rat park addiction, the video would come up. And what it explains is that they put a rat inside of a cage by itself, and they gave it water, and they gave it a bottle of water, a bottle of water laced with heroin or cocaine. Almost every single time the rat is inside of a cage by itself, it's going to turn toward the drug-laced water and use it compulsively until it kills itself. So scientists for years and years, for decades, thought there's chemical hooks in the drug that keep the rat coming back for more and more. Then a psychologist looked at the scientist experiment. Psychologist goes, well, hey, the rat's by itself. What happens if we put the rat in this big cage with other rats? So they built Rat Park, and it was heaven for rats, and the rats could play with each other and have friends and balls to play with and tunnels to scamper down. And what they found is with the same water options, not one of the rats ever used the drug-laced water compulsively, and not one of them ever overdosed. Why? It led them to believe that there is connection. So when a person is connected, they are less likely to turn to addiction. When they are disconnected from either themselves, maybe a spiritual connection, if you believe in that, like I do, or connection from the world and society around you through trauma or whatever the case may be, you're more likely to turn to something to fill that void. And so I believe as a recovering alcoholic and addict that I wake up every single day, that my God made me wake up every single day with a hole in my soul. And that hole is to be filled with something good, something positive, something spiritual. And spiritual can be smiling at somebody. It can be being of service to somebody else. or I can fill it with bad things. I can fill it with pornography or drugs or alcohol is what I chose for many, many years. And so I think today's young kids are more disconnected than ever because we're on our technology 24/7. From the time we wake up, we stare at our phone to find out how accepted we are by the outside world, this digital world that's really just fake, and it's nothing. What matters is the connection that we have one-on-one. And so I think fraternities and sororities are great organizations and great opportunities for people to be connected. But you've got to be conscious of it and say, I need to work on a human connection more often and less on a digital connection, because this stuff just comes and goes. And our Facebook posts and Instagram posts just come and go. But a heart-to-heart connection with other people is something that we're designed to need, and something that we need to be conscious of, especially the young folks need to recognize that this isn't the end-all be-all. Mm-hmm. You and I having this conversation is more important than anything we could be posting on social media. It's you and I connecting right here. Now, God can use this when we do post on social media to help somebody else, but I appreciate these kinds of opportunities to speak openly with amazing people like Mike.
Yeah, listen, you're going to help a lot of people, so I really appreciate the time here as well. I'm sure that other people are going to be helped just by watching this and hearing this conversation. So let's assume for a moment that there's a fraternity member watching this, there's a sorority member watching this, they see one of their brothers or sisters are really struggling with addiction. Could be alcohol, could be drugs, could be something else like pornography, for example. So what should we do? What resources are available to a college student?
Yeah, so here's, of course, addictioncampuses.com would be the first place I would want people to go to. We have amazing videos on YouTube that talk about, what is addiction, what is trauma, how does isolation play into addiction. So we have some amazing resources on our YouTube channel that people can go to and learn from. In terms of on college campuses, we have some amazing, there is an amazing organization called the Association of Recovery and Higher Education. And if you Google that, there's going to have opportunities or college campuses that have recovery programs on their campuses. And so a lot of people don't know that those exist. So again, it's called the Association of Recovery and Higher Education. You can find out what college campuses. Texas Tech is where it started. Texas Tech has a huge recovery program there. Baylor, where I went to, has a great recovery program. So it's almost like you could join your own little fraternity. It's a recovery community on your campus if it's offered. So that would be another resource I would recommend. And then, of course, High Sobriety podcast. But if you have somebody that's struggling right now, that's a roommate or down the hall from you or in your organization, I would recommend having a conversation with them. Just let them know that you're concerned. State some facts. Hey, I've noticed that some things have not been working out for you. I noticed some changes in your behavior. Is there anything going on? Sometimes just letting somebody know that you care and that you're there for them is a great way to open up a conversation. If you're like me, I'm going to deny it at first and go, no, everything's fine. I don't want to talk about it. But at least I know that person's there and a safe place to go to if consequences continue to get bad enough to where I need to reach out for help.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I know a lot of people probably don't know how to approach the subject with somebody else that they care about. That's the toughest part, is saying we got to talk to this person, let them know that we're concerned, and then go from there. But just starting that conversation, that can be uncomfortable, and people might not even know how to start the conversation. So that's really helpful.
I'm gonna walk to another office because we're so busy here at our campus. We've got a leadership team coming in for a meeting, so I'm gonna step out to the next office over here.
All right, sounds good. I love it. You're mobile.
Yes. Yeah, and to reiterate, somebody, it is tough to open up that conversation if you have somebody that's struggling. But again, just stating the facts and letting them know that you care, and doing it when they're sober. I think another key is to do it when somebody's sober, not to try to have an in-depth or a real personal conversation if somebody's in active use or currently drunk. Let them sleep it off and approach them when they're a little more coherent is another key factor.
Makes total sense to me. Now, you've obviously had a whole bunch of experiences since leaving Baylor. I wonder, knowing what you know now, and getting all those life experiences from Baylor to this point, what advice would you have for today's college students? Would you have any advice if you could go back and speak to yourself back at Baylor or talk to another college student today?
Yeah, man, stay connected with a few close friends on a regular basis. And that's a mistake I made when I was so connected and so involved on campus and while I was in school. And as soon as I graduated, I did not keep up good relationships with my fraternity brothers like I should have. And that really hurt me. It really hurt me to have, you don't need, on campus, we had, 100 and some odd members. When I graduated, I moved to Dallas for a year, and there was a lot of fraternity brothers there around that area. But when I moved out to California to get my master's in counseling and work in LA, I got disconnected, and that really hurt me. And I wish I would have stayed closer with more folks, so that life is not meant to be go through alone, and it's also not meant to be lived solely on social media. Because you can have all the friends in the world on social media, but you can be sitting in your room. I can sit in my room for a week and never leave, and sit there with the blinds down and just hunker away and just be depressed in my room. And I can feel connected in the digital world and feel like I know what's going on in the news and sports and my friends' lives because it's all out there in front of me. But I'm really just lonely and isolated inside. And so, I would suggest be recognized when you leave college that you need to have that conscious contact with other folks on a heart level, an emotional level, and not just keeping up with people digitally. So.
That's great advice. The national fraternities like Delta Tau Delta, like Sigma Pi, other sororities that are national sororities, these are huge organizations that have upwards of 100,000 members, 200,000 members, a lot of people out there, a lot of alumni. So a lot of them have built-in social networks even once you graduate. So, definitely if you are out there, let's say you move for work, like to California, for example, or for your master's degree or whatever, contact the national headquarters of the organization you belong to, find out who are some of the people that live out in your region, and chances are they might be meeting on a regular basis around town, wherever it is that you move. So that's another opportunity to connect with other fraternity brothers or sorority members that you have a lot of things in common that will help to support you in this new environment that you're in. So don't forget about those connections. Just because you leave college, it's not just a 4-year experience. It really is a lifelong experience. And so make sure you get the benefit of all of that you've joined.
Yeah, and contact your fraternity or sorority online and let them know if you move, let them know your new address. If you get a new email address, make sure your contact info is updated on that. That's something that I've done with Delta Tau Delta so that I can stay in the loop. I still get, our magazine every so often, things like that make you still stay connected to the organization.
Yeah, the university also. I know the University at Buffalo here in Nashville, they get together and meet every so often in Nashville, Tennessee. So there's all kinds of ways to get connected, even with, your university, even if you weren't as engaged joining an organization, even your university probably has alums where you live. So that's another thing to look at. Very
Absolutely.
Good. So, all right. So my favorite question here is, what is your favorite food and where can we go to get it?
All right, favorite food. Oh, this is one of the major reasons why I work out so much is to work off my favorite food, which is ice cream. That's like the last addiction I haven't given up. I haven't joined an ice cream 12-step program yet. I haven't done any 12-step programs around my ice cream binging that I eat, and my favorite is Bluebell.
Nice.
Bluebell, made in Texas, where I'm from. Go Texas. And Bluebell, I couldn't get it out in California, so whenever I would go home, I would definitely gorge on it. But here in Nashville, we have access to it, so any of the major grocery stores have Bluebell ice cream. My current favorite is probably may sound silly, is a Bride's cake. That's my favorite flavor right now, and then followed second by cookies and cream.
Nice, I love it. All right, so where can our audience go in order to follow you on social media, to go check out your podcast, and also give us that phone number once again for Addiction Campuses?
Sure. So you can find me, John Clint Mabry, on all social media platforms. It's JohnClintMabry, John Clint Mabry on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. addictioncampuses.com. If you want to talk to a treatment specialist, you can go there and a little window will pop up and you can talk to somebody digitally, or you can call our 800 number here is 888-342-8255. 3554. Once again, 888-342-3554. And I think that's probably it.
That's awesome. I love the work that you're doing, John. Your story is a really powerful story that I know is going to resonate with college students all across the country. So I appreciate you sharing that story. I know you've helped a lot of people, over your career, and you're going to continue to do that on college campuses as you go out and talk about addiction with college students all over. So I really appreciate the work. I appreciate you being so raw and honest, because those stories, that's really what makes a difference. That's what resonates with people and ultimately gets them to get the help that they need. So I really appreciate what you do. So thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity you're giving me to work, through the Greek University model. It's an honor.
Of course, it's our pleasure. All right, and to the audience, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on an upcoming edition of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.